Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
The NFL returns tonight.
Football's back, baby. Football's back.
Yeah, I know I did a game last week.
Yeah. But there was a 2-hour delay in there. Does that really count?
Yes. You're 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight you've got the Chiefs and the Ravens. So there'll be a lot on Patrick Mahomes, a lot about Lamar Jackson. Jackson does have to get to a point where, as a quarterback, he's got to get his team into a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If he is the quarterback that many people write about and talk about, he does need to do that. It is not as if he does not have a good cast around him. He does. This is not somebody overcoming his cast around him to get there.
He's had Hollywood Brown. He's had the running backs like a Gus Edwards, a good crew there, and now he's got.
Well, Flowers is a good receiver. He's had terrific tight ends, including Mark Andrews.
He's now one of the best.
He's had a good offensive line.
In the league.
He's had a good offensive line in front of him. All right, and to be honest with you, when they play an NFC team, they win almost every time. The only NFC team to beat them has been the Giants. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley made a couple incredible plays in that game that won the game for the Giants. But why is that? Because an NFC team never sees him.
See him once
or rarely sees him. They rarely see him. So you don't get a gauge on how quick he is, how he does certain things. AFC teams do have a gauge on him. He's 1-7 against the Steelers.
Yeah, not great.
But they know him. In other words, they've got a feel for his game as to how he plays. And despite the fact that everybody wants to hype, oh, look how he throws the ball, he really still is not a great thrower of the football. That's why they don't advance.
Yeah.
He's good enough, right? But good enough is not enough.
He is the best runner of the football as a quarterback, but he is a mid. But he is a mid-level thrower of the ball.
Right.
Michael Vick, I'd probably say, was a better passer in terms of
maybe
throws.
Yeah,
but that's
maybe, especially the deep ball.
Yeah, but that's like the best comparison you make is him to Michael Vick in terms of the football side of things, because pretty much it's a 1-to-1 in terms of.
Like way back when Bobby Douglas could run, but Bobby Douglas couldn't throw. Well, Lamar Jackson can throw. Has he become a more accurate passer? No question he's become a more accurate passer. Does he bring the ball from different angles? Yeah, he brings the ball from different angles. But when he gets into the biggest games,
it's
no
not
offense,
his arm.
he doesn't play well. Right? Because they've got a good handle on him and a good handle on everything else around them. In the biggest games, he hasn't played well. And some of those losses have been at home. He's got to find a way to get over the top on stuff like that, right? And I know everybody, you can't wish a guy to be the best. You can't wish it. And that's one of the problems I have with the coverage of Lamar Jackson. There are a lot of people wishing him to be the best. Well, do I think he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks? Yes. Do I think he's a top 5 quarterback? Now the debate gets really, I mean, he's not as good as the guy who's playing tonight. This is the best in the game. I mean, he's the best in the game, and he can run, throw, angles, creative, everything. I mean, he's been the best since Brady.
I'd say Jackson's currently probably barely top 5 in the AFC. Like, you've got a really strong AFC cat. He makes the top 5 maybe, but like it is a tough competition in the AFC in terms of quarterbacks.
But you can't see that. But that's one of the problems with my coverage of this.
Yeah.
be realistic with what you're seeing here. Don't wish something. All right?
Yeah.
The perfect example is Nebraska football. Nebraska football has not made a bowl game since 2016. Yet how many seasons since 2016 has there been a hype train about Nebraska? Here they come.
I'm guessing every year since 2016.
No, not every year. Not every year. When they came in here in 2018, everybody knew they were a disaster, and it's and they weren't playing well, and Penn State won the game big. Okay. But it seems like, oh, here comes Scott Frost. That's it. We're good. Okay. And they've been spinning their wheels. And I said then, you cannot wish a team to a division title. Okay, they've got to play their way there.
Yeah.
Well, Nebraska didn't play well enough to get there. They didn't. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. Is he a really good NFL quarterback? No question. He's the best runner in the game. He might be a better runner than people that run the football for a living.
He's probably a starting caliber running back.
Right. Unbelievable. Okay. Leader. I mean, I've talked to guys that play for the Ravens, right? The Penn State guys that play for the Ravens. Man, they swear by him. So it tells me everything. Okay. But you need, in the biggest moments, it's one thing to sit there and throw for 300 yards against the Atlanta Falcons secondary in a regular season game. It's another thing to do that against the Kansas City Chiefs when the money's on the table.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. In the playoffs, when the money's been on the table, he spun his wheels. He spun his wheels against Tennessee, spun his wheels against the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, and these are home games.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, at some point, I would not be surprised he breaks through. But that point hasn't happened yet.
Nope.
And again, would I love him to be my quarterback? Of course I would. Right? I've got Daniel Jones. And those two aren't in the same category. Lamar is way above that.
And as things stand, this is the projected AFC championship game matchup, the Chiefs and the Ravens. As things stand Super Bowl-wise, the odds are currently favorite-wise to the Chiefs, plus 550. You have the Niners second, and the Ravens and the Detroit Lions. So those are the top four teams per odds makers. I know we don't do betting, but that's just where the odds are going. That's where the money is going to right now.
I will say this. This was the game a year ago where the Detroit Lions announced to the world, here we are. I mean, they had that Monday night game against Green Bay when they knocked Aaron Rodgers and the Packers out of the playoffs. And was like, and they played well down the stretch. Like, okay, so that's why the NFL threw them in that game last year with Kansas City. The game's over with, like, going, holy mackerel, Detroit's pretty good.
And they cooked them. So this week number one is an odd week one for a lot of reasons, the biggest of which is there are games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So the schedule, we have tonight's game, Baltimore, Kansas City on NBC and on Peacock. Tomorrow, the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles play in Sao Paulo, Brazil in Corinthians Stadium at 8:15 on Peacock.
Yeah.
Sunday, you have all those Sunday games, with the night game being the Rams at Detroit. The return of Goff versus Stafford on NBC and on Peacock. And then Monday night's game is the Jets in San Fran on ESPN, ABC, ESPN+. A lot of platforms, a lot of usage, a lot of places, and it is week number one. And going into the season, what team do you not feel as hot on as many others would feel? Like, is there a team or a player or someone who there is just a lot of that talk, like Lamar Jackson has had in the past, where he is being hyped up as the greatest thing since sliced bread? Who are you a little more hesitant on?
Saints.
Well, I don't. The Saints have a 7.5 point win number right now. I'm hearing the under.
I only said that because it's your team.
Well, I'm lower on them than anyone else is, because I don't think they're going to get more than 7 wins. And
to be honest with you, I think the Dallas Cowboys.
I wanted to talk.
There's something not quite. There's something not quite in sync with that organization and that team. So they have more talent, but it's just not.
As things sit, they are currently 9th. They're tied for 9th with the Packers and Jets for odds in terms of the Super Bowl champion. with plus 1,800.
That stuff means nothing to me.
No, I know.
I mean, like, I don't even know what it means.
I know.
So,
but
I mean, I realize I'm a dinosaur with this,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't even know what it means.
I believe, and someone can tell me if I'm wrong, I believe it means if you put $1,800, you make 100 back.
I did ask Dick
100
Girardi one time to explain it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, I had to ask him because I just didn't know. I'm just not a part of that world.
Yeah. But the big thing, the Cowboys, you mentioned their roster. It is weird. Their offense is weird. It's CeeDee Lamb at receiver and then Brandon Cooks at running back. They saw that Tony Pollard didn't work as the number one, so they let him go and brought back Ezekiel Elliott, and now they've got, I think, Rico Dowdle is their number two guy. Jake Ferguson's their tight end. Like, it's pretty much going to be Dak throwing to CD the entire game.
Well, Ferguson I like, by the way.
Ferguson I like as well, but it's tough when it's CeeDee Lamb and that's pretty much it. And Jerry Jones has been saying the whole we got to pay everybody thing, so that's why there's only so much talent on this team. But, like, you still got to pay Micah Parsons. You still got to pay Dak, technically. Like, it is looking a little more gloom in Dallas, which it's America's team. Seeing them lose makes me happy because of the Cowboys. So, normal stuff.
Well, like, for example, remember Diggs had 11 interceptions 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. He's the best. He's the greatest. I said, do you know why he has 11 interceptions? Because they keep throwing at him. Mm-hmm. Why do they keep throwing at him? Because actually he's not that good. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Then the next year he goes out and gets burned, toasted left and right, and doesn't get 11 interceptions. Again, why? Okay, you get 11 interceptions in part because people keep looking at you and going, I still say we can beat this guy.
Because it is worth the risk. You can say, you know what, we're going to get 7 touchdowns and throw 3 picks, but that's okay with me.
Yeah, but like he didn't get 11 interceptions. Like, he was hurt part of last year, the whole thing. But no offense, but sometimes even with numbers like that, you're Waldo. Where they just sit there and go, hey. Right? And, see, that's why I don't. As time goes, the old Bill Parcells quote of "You are what your record says you are," I think has been one of the biggest bunches of
garbage,
just gunk and bunk. Because you've got to watch and see why something is. I'll give you an example. The Spikes had a pitcher this year, Nick Palumbo. He ended up with an ERA in the 6s. Well, he must have had a bad summer. Well, he made 18 appearances. 15 were great, 3 were bad. I know that because Joe Putnam and I broadcast every single game. Boom, lights out, lights out, lights out, boom. Bummer. He had a bummer in the game the other night here. But if somebody were to ask me, what do you think of him? I said, yeah, he's got a 93, 94 mile per hour fastball. The guy gets outs. The guy gets saves, holds. Does he have a clunker? Yeah, you pitch 18 times, so 1 out of every 6, because he had 3 bad ones. 1 out of every 6 is a clunker. That means the other 5 are fine. Okay? Well, does his record say who he is? No, because the clunkers were clunkers. All right.
Also, if we go off record, that would mean DeGrom from like 4 years ago, or King Felix Hernandez from back with the Mariners when he was like 500 pitching wise, but he had a .09 ERA or some crazy number. Like, everyone's like, but he's got a 12-12 record. Well, it's not his fault. His team can't score a run.
Right.
So its record is tough. Is there a team or a player you're most excited to watch this season on Sundays? Is there someone you're looking at, some team you're looking at where you're like, I want to watch them and enjoy watching football? Is there someone out there this year? There's one team for me.
I would say I'm interested to see what happens with Green Bay and Jordan Love in his second year as a starter. Has the league caught on to him, or is he continuing to play at a high level? So that Green Bay would be interesting. Detroit is Detroit. There's no question that the Lions are who they are. Goff is a good NFL quarterback. He's not a great NFL quarterback. The Bears are interesting because they had the high draft picks with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, which I think to go with their defense. So those are all in the same division. I want to see what Aaron Rodgers does with the Jets. I think the 49ers are going to spin their wheels. I really do. There's something about that group that's just like, okay, there's a lot of good things about them, but there's a lot of things about them that aren't quite. And a lot of times when a team makes a Super Bowl and loses it, they don't usually get back.
Yeah.
It's very unusual. I remember the Dolphins did that after Super Bowl VI, after the Cowboys dismantled them 24-3. They came back and won the next two. But that's rare when a team gets back to a Super Bowl after they've lost. Look at Philadelphia last year. Philadelphia, and that'll be another team. The adding of Dotson, they've added in Barkley. They've got all this offensive talent and a defense that still does not light me up in any way, shape, or form. And can Elliott have another year of bailing them out as a kicker, or is he going to miss a couple?
Yeah.
Those are some things that are interesting to me.
The team I'm most intrigued by, which I guess the odds makers also agree is a team to watch because they are currently...
And by the way, Miami's fun, so I like the Dolphins. They're fun.
Miami's fun. The team I'm watching because they were fun last year and they're going to be fun this year again, and they are currently 6th in odds to win the Super Bowl, which is crazy, is the Houston Texans, with, by the way, starting center Juice Scruggs for them.
Sure.
But this team was great last year. CJ Stroud was fun to watch, and they added talent to this team. That now you have Joe Mixon at running back, who is a starting caliber guy. You have Stephon Diggs now is probably your number one, alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and John Mechie's back healthy. Robert Woods is there. You've got a good tight end with Dalton Schultz. You have a great defense.
But they also have to play a better schedule.
The AFC South could be really good this year with the Colts. But that is a team I'm excited to see, a lot of it because I want to see how CJ Stroud does in year 2. He's done the rounds with media this offseason. He's been everywhere talking to everybody. I'm very intrigued to see how they play and how he plays because he could have a really good year. He's got all the weapons he needs on offense. He's got a great O-line. He's got a great skill talent position group. He's got all the tools at his disposal now. The Houston Texans turned this thing around in 2 years' time, thanks to him. And now they're sitting there with one of the most talented teams in the NFL and a division that they should be able to win. And I'm intrigued by it.
Right.
And also in their division, and I'm intrigued by your thoughts on him, is Anthony Richardson. He's now back healthy.
Nobody knows. Last year when he did play preseason and early, I was impressed by the fact that he was a better quarterback at this level I thought he might be. Big arm, can move, the whole deal. Now I'd like to see him in a full season because I'm still not quite sure why they picked him. I will say that when he did play early last year, I was like, okay, he's really not that bad. Not great, but he's not that bad. But you got to see him with a full body of work.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
But
we'll see.
Yeah. But similarly, that team, offensively, he's got talent now for him at receiver. Pittman's a pretty good receiver. You've got Adonai Mitchell coming in who's going to burn it up down the field. Josh Downs is good. He's got, of course, one of the best running backs, Jonathan Taylor, at his disposal with a decent O-line around him with Quentin Nelson and co. So it should be a very fun year. There's a lot of talent at quarterback, but it's just a question of who's going to do it. How are the Chargers going to look with Jim Harbaugh? But Jim Harbaugh, of course, is known for liking to run the ball, but he's got a top 10 quarterback in the league in Justin Herbert. How high you put him is up to you. Like, Justin Herbert also has none of his receivers from last year, unless you count Quentin Johnson as a guy you like.
Right.
Which, how do you think Harbaugh's going to translate back to the NFL? We saw how he did it with the Niners the first time, but now he goes back with this Chargers team with talent in places, and
he's got a mismatch, okay, but I think that he's got a team that's a 9-8 team. He's got a quarterback. Let's start with that. He doesn't have to worry about that part.
Yeah.
Which has to be refreshing for him after his time at Michigan. McCarthy's the only quarterback he ever developed. And I think McCarthy was good.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase. I thought McCarthy was very good, but not great.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran the ball as often as they could, and they did not put the game on his shoulders to win. They put the game on his shoulders to not lose. Penn State game was a perfect example. I mean, Penn State was all over him. And you're like, they stopped throwing. He got hurt in the game. They ran the ball. So he's got the quarterback to begin with, which helps. But he still has a sporadic roster.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years from now, with the right draft choices. I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh knows how to coach.
Yeah.
Okay, he does. He won at the University of San Diego. He won at Stanford. He won with the 49ers. And it took him a while and some very interesting methods to win finally at Michigan. We'll debate the methods another day. We've already debated the methods many times, but still won. Okay, well, now he's in the NFL. It's where he's wanted to be anyway. If the Chargers give him the time he needs, he'll win there. Because at some point, even within that division, okay, the Broncos aren't there right now. Bo Nix is going to be their starter. They're not there. The Raiders absolutely are not there. Okay, for Kansas City, at some point, I feel like Brett Veach has done a really magical job of working around the high-salaried guys, which he has to have. So he has no choice. And he's picked up really good players to fit the puzzle, which is what Dallas has not done. See, that's the difference. Dallas has highly paid players, but they haven't fit in the parts of the rest of the puzzle.
They haven't found the pieces that they need to help.
Okay, when the puzzle's finished in Dallas, they're the ones looking around. Okay, where are the other three pieces?
Yeah.
Did we lose the three pieces of the puzzle? Everybody, look under the couch. That's Dallas. Kansas City, Brett Veach's been like, okay, look, everything fits, and he makes it work. But there also is a window, and they're aware of it. This is where the Chargers can take advantage of that window. Right? And that's why I said 2 years from now. 2 years from now, the window, I think, is going to be open in that division for somebody to move forward. And if they take care of Herbert, I think is a really good NFL quarterback.
And now they've got a good, I believe, right tackle in Joe Alt, who high draft pick we feel good about. And they've got a talented team. If they can add some more talent, of course, receiver, add some more guys across the board that he likes, that could be good. And something I did last year, I want to do it again here. I want a thumbs up or thumbs down as we go with some fantasy football team names. And I will give you my two as well. I do have two teams, and I want to see if you think they're good names or not.
My fantasy
football team names, and I've got a few more I want to throw at you as well. Okay. So
I don't play fantasy. Everybody knows that.
But that is okay. But we're getting the I want the names. If you think it's fun, if you think it's not fun.
Okay.
Ready? Do you know Blue Suede, perchance? The musical group. We got Hooked on a Feeling.
Oh, okay. So all right, I got it. Okay, so I know who they are.
Feels like a good one. Run CMC. After Run DMC, Christian McCaffrey, CMC. Not great. Got it. We have All You Need Is Love, Jordan Love. My team the past few years has been Lights Camara Action. And
actually, I do. That's actually fairly clever.
Yes. Thank you. We have my 2 team names this year. We're not worthy. Not good. And my favorite name that I was proud of myself, down to the McConkey Tonk. Yeah, I gotta laugh. I'm proud of that one personally. Loud McConkey is my backup receiver, but who's counting here on the show?
There you go.
So those are some fun fantasy names. I wanted to throw those out there, and we'll discuss fantasy as the year goes on because there's, everyone cares about it here on the show, and we love it.
Oh no! I've given fantasy a lot of credit for the NFL ratings and things like that. I always have that, but I've never had a even remote desire to play it. I don't have time to do that.
It's not worth it.
No, but I'm saying, I don't have the time. In other words, like, wow, Sunday they're playing NFL games. Sunday, Steve's getting ready for the next game, right? I broadcast a game on Saturday. I got to get ready for the next one, right? So I don't really have a lot of times I'll be sitting there and the NFL's on in the background. I'm not sitting there playing fantasy football. I have no time for it. I got Sunday night also means practice. So
that it does. And speaking of NFL players, to wrap up the NFL side of things for now, is there a Penn State player you're excited to watch this year on their team, not named Saquon Barkley and Jahan Dotson? Because we're going to take those two out because those two could have some real fun years.
Sure.
Is there a Penn State player you're excited to watch this season? And is a guy like a rookie, like an Olu,
Chop,
the Jets? Chop?
I mean, it's going to be difficult to watch Olu because it's difficult watching an offensive lineman play. Where the Jets are playing. Well, I want to see, you're watching Aaron Rodgers throw the ball.
Yeah.
Now, will I look over and see what Olu's doing to protect him? Of course I will, but I'm not going to lock in on him.
Yeah.
But Chop, I think Chop could have a big year.
He is, as things stand in their depth chart, currently slated to be the backup, I believe, linebacker. He's currently behind Quentin Bell and Bradley Chubb, which is a loaded linebacking group for them down there in Miami. But he should get some play. He's got a good team, a lot of players to learn from, whether it be Calais Campbell on the line, Jalen Phillips. He's got Bradley Chubb. So that should be fun to watch him play. So very exciting stuff there. I'm also intrigued to see if Hunter Norzad gets in a little bit for the Chiefs at any point, because they've had a lot of injuries across the line. He's now their backup center.
Yeah, but he's also the backup guard too.
He could get in for some good play, and he could have a fun year this year. And they're going for a 3-peat, so that will be fun to watch happen. So the NFL's back, and a lot of things are happening across the board. And speaking of NFL stuff, this is some breaking news. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Rael Entine, the Commander's vice president of content for the past 4 years.
I saw Joe Putnam and I off the air last night. I said, Joe, what? Look at this story. He said, this story's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm reading the story to him. I said, he's the director of content?
Yeah. And they just fired him.
Yeah, no
today.
kidding.
He was suspended yesterday. And
no
he was fired
kidding.
Today.
They fired him.
Yeah. And this is just such a crazy thing. He apparently met, as you discussed with Joe Putnam, he met a woman on a dating app. She was undercover for a media group. They met at a restaurant in D.C., and then he just went off on the Commanders, on players, on Goodell, Jerry Jones, just everything. And he has now been fired by the team. He was with the Jets for the 2 years prior to being with Washington. So we're not going to discuss more than that, but that was something that...
I mean, there's a long list. He said things about Jerry Jones. He said things about players in the locker room. He basically said that the vast majority weren't smart. He said stuff about Roger Goodell. It's just a long list of he checked every box to get fired, and really in a scorched earth way of doing it. Okay.
So that happened. And it's the NFL's back, though. That's a fun thing. The NFL's back, and the games are starting up now. So we're very excited to see what happens, who does well, who plays where across the board. We'll discuss them as the season goes on. Of course, when Jason's here, it'll be a lot of 49ers stuff, because why wouldn't it be? And when I'm here, we are not going to discuss the Saints because I don't want to bring us down, Steve. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Until Dennis Allen gets fired, I'm not really gonna talk about the Saints or Rattler starts. That's pretty much my bar.
Yeah.
But now I guess we turn to this week and to the NCAA, to college football. So in terms of college football news, since we've been on here live on the show, LSU's John Emery has a torn ACL and is out for the season.
That's a shame because I thought he ran well against USC in the opener on Sunday night.
He was great. And so seeing him tear his ACL was not fun. Today, a California-based judge overseeing the trio of antitrust lawsuits is overseeing questions and is gathering information from plaintiffs, Claudia Wilkin. So that is going on today as well.
She's going to rubber stamp this thing anytime now. There's just a couple maybe little points they got to go over.
But it's happening today.
But so and the number keeps going up. I mean, the number I'm now hearing is $23 million per.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new number I'm hearing.
It's a lot.
It's $23 million, not 20, not 22. I'm hearing 23 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with Todd Walker yesterday, who's the play-by-play voice of Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, and I mean the most part, anybody of quality moves up and out of the MAC to someplace else. Usually, for example, they're going to play Texas A&M next week or the week after, one of the two. And one of their former players is playing now for Texas A&M. That's what I'm talking about. Now, do they have guys that have, quote, slid down there? Connor Bazelak, the quarterback, sure. Missouri, Indiana, now there. And it's his second year there. Malcolm Johnson, Auburn, now he's there. Right? But for the most part, it's the other way around. At that level, you're losing people. And I said to Todd, I said, what is the concern of Bowling Green about the ability to financially compete against these schools? And he said, look, he says, it's a huge undertaking for them. He says, they can't offer that kind of money. They can't. No way, shape, or form. I'm going to talk to Wes Durham today. Now after we're done talking about golf. What?
Nothing.
What?
By the way,
he and I played twice this year. Come on. Right?
By the way, Bowling Green.
I'm going to ask him about the ability of the ACC under their current contract to compete financially at $23 million a year.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Can they? What's the feeling within the conference? I mean, can you do it? I mean, Florida State. Right now, we know they're 0-2, and both of them are conference losses, which makes it worse. They only have 6 more opportunities to get themselves back on track. But think about Florida State last year, right? And think about it in this context. When they had Jordan Travis at quarterback, and keep in mind, want everybody to keep in mind, a couple years ago, the fans in Tallahassee wanted to run him out on a rail. They were drawing lots to see which one would drive him to the airport. Okay? Then all of a sudden, like the back half of 2022, he started to play better. And then he had a phenomenal 2023, and then he got hurt. But what happened to Florida State after he got hurt? And I don't mean the Georgia game. The Georgia game's a separate entity because you had guys quit left and right. The last couple of games they played without Travis, they won but barely got by. And their defense was a big reason why. And Jared Verse, who's from Bloomsburg, right, was phenomenal. But they didn't look good. And that was one of the reasons why they didn't make the playoff, because they didn't look good. Well, now a couple of those key guys on defense aren't there anymore. And guess what? They still don't look good. Travis made a greater difference than I think anybody realized when you watch Florida State play. Now, can Florida State compete? Can they come up with the money internally while also going through a lawsuit? They're going through a lawsuit right now, which means you have to pay attorneys. Can you compete with the ACC current TV contract and the fact that you have external expenses. Now, do they have a donor base? No doubt they have a donor base. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about the ability of the mandated. Mm-hmm. This will be a court-mandated number.
Yeah. You can't not pay that.
And that's Florida State, who at least sells out. I brought this up before. What about Pitt?
Georgia Tech.
But what about Pitt? Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the worst things for Pitt football is that they play in the Steelers Stadium. It's not that it's not a great stadium, the whole thing. The stadium's fine. I mean, it's not the best stadium I've ever been in, but it's good. All right. But because it's the Steelers Stadium, the seats are all painted gold, yellow, gold, whatever, yellow, right? Well, guess what? It sticks out like a sore thumb when the seats are empty. Pitt doesn't draw unless it is Penn State, West Virginia, Ohio State, Notre Dame. They don't draw. Anybody else, like Florida State and Clemson, they'll get a really good crowd. But for the most part, they don't. Usually, you look at a Pitt game, okay? You got to make up for money. So my point is the money, not the empty seats. That's not my That's not the empty seats are not the point here. The point is you need the money, which means are people donating money to get season tickets and aren't using them, or are people just doing it on a game-by-game basis and not going, which means you're not getting enough revenue to afford the $23 million, which now means you can't compete. See, this is going to bring with it, and again, this isn't an NCAA thing.
It's an each university thing.
Okay? It is a court-mandated thing. It's court-mandated. Right? And by the way, and I will bring this up with Wes, the NCAA quietly set out a mandate to all the networks this week. No more in-game interviews with players. You can talk to a player before the opening kickoff. You can talk to a player after the whistle blows to end the game. Anything in between, TV or radio, cannot talk to the player. The NCAA put that out this week.
Really?
Quietly, yes.
Huh.
I will bring that up with Wes.
That's interesting.
Today, because it doesn't affect our job. We've never had a player on the radio network during the game. We always have them on after. We have James on at halftime, and so he's the only person outside of on the team that we have on during the course of quote the game time. But no more halftime interviews with players. I saw Holly Rowe interview a player the first weekend. The NCAA said no, can't do it anymore.
That's interesting.
No, I'm not so sure what they say.
Yeah, but that's just something to do. By the way, you mentioned Bowling Green. Their schedule, they have A&M 2 weeks after Penn State, so on the 21st. So both teams have bye week after this game on Saturday, and they both have a bye, and they both go to play another team after that. Some breaking news in terms of players in sports. Alex Morgan has retired from professional soccer. That is just something I wanted to bring up here on the show. Of course, she's, I think, fairly well known, fair to say out loud. One of the most popular.
Alex Morgan was a great player for the U.S. Played really well, played at a high level. Big reason, one of the many reasons why they won.
Yeah. By the way, also just breaking, it seems, Penn State will be playing their Palestra game this year on January 5th against Indiana, against the Hoosiers and Mike Woodson. They will be at the Palestra in a Big Ten matchup this season. So last year, I believe, was Michigan at the Palestra.
Yeah. And
this year, that game is now going to be against Indiana and the Hoosiers. So that is just something to note. What is the Palestra game like? Because last year I did not go. It was, of course, following all of the craziness of Plains and Michigan State. So I did not attend the game. But what is the Palestra game like for you to go there and have some fun and be there to broadcast?
I'm so shocked that Indiana's the choice. What?
It's okay. Continue.
What's it like?
Yeah, what's it like?
Okay, first of all, Penn State has done a great job of getting this game to happen every year at that time, because when does it occur? It occurs when the students are not on campus. You don't need to be playing a conference game in the Jordan Center at that time of the year. I mean, it's not. I mean, let's give Purdue its just due. Purdue could play at 3:00 in the morning, and Mackey Arena would be packed. That's how much they love their team. The whole deal. Well, although 3 a.m. here, the students would turn out.
Yeah.
But there's nobody on campus at that time. Classes don't begin until the Monday after that. So by playing down there, you assure a packed house in a legendary arena that brings with it a noise level that is really terrific. And Penn State's only lost one game in this Palestra series, and that was the one to Purdue, and they led that game by 8 at halftime over Zach Edey and Purdue. Led by 8, and then the first 5 minutes of the second half, the wheels came off the wagon. But the other games they played, Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, people like that. Right? Indiana will be a terrific matchup there. But I want to point out, you can't just put anybody in there. Okay? You can't.
Yeah.
You play Northwestern there, it's not going to have the same juice. If you put Nebraska in there, it's not going to have the same juice. All right? Now, if you put UCLA in there, it'll sell out in a heartbeat. Now, I do know that UCLA will eventually do it, but not the first time through.
That'd be.
Well,
they want to get the teams to play. I'm assuming play each of the stadiums first.
They want to go into okay, what's it like to go to State College? What's because I mean they've never been here. Penn State and UCLA have only played basketball against each other once. And that was in the NCAA tournament, the Carrier Dome. I'm trying to think if there's anybody from that team still around. Oh wait, that'd be me. But that's the only time they ever played. So Penn State's never played at Pauley. Conversely, UCLA's never been here. So you want to at least go. Okay, what's the bus company like? What's the trip from the airport like? What's it like to get into the airport? Okay, what's the hotel like? Okay, how's the setup and so forth? Okay, what's the arena like? I mean, all these things where you want to check all those boxes so that the next time you come here, it's not the first time.
Yeah. So they'll play at some point in the next few years, but not just yet.
I wouldn't doubt. Let's see. UCLA is scheduled to come here in 26.
So I'm guessing 28.
So my guess 28 would be the year that they would attempt to get them in the Palestra. But my point is you can't just play anybody in there.
Last year was Michigan. Right? That's a good team to pick.
Michigan State, Iowa, Fran McCaffrey, all those Philadelphia roots.
Ohio State.
Purdue, right? Ohio State's an interesting one. Ohio State would be great if you play them at that time of the year. Ohio State, though, is also one of those teams that draws here. Illinois is one that maybe, but there's a bunch of like you can't play Minnesota there. You can't play Nebraska there. I mean, I don't think you can play Wisconsin there. Like when Bo Ryan was the coach, you could because Bo's from Chester. And Bo has all those roots there. But with Greg Gard there, and I personally like Greg Gard, so this is not it's just, I'm talking about the circumstances of it. Wisconsin is not the draw and the intrigue. Northwestern you can't. I mean, there's actually a list of, you can't play Rutgers there because, I mean, Rutgers,
the Rutgers.
No, it's not that. It's because they're so backyard. Same thing with Maryland. They're so backyard. So you're really not going to give up a home game against those guys.
Yeah.
Right, to go down there and do it. And so I think that's
it's going to be a fun game this year against Indiana. We still don't have the full schedule yet. We're still waiting on the Big Ten schedule to release.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
And we are now 2 months away from the season beginning, by the way. But
I would not doubt that either before this week is out. Look, if they're telling everybody that the Indiana game is the Palestra game,
Well, this is from John Rothstein.
All right.
That's what we've got.
Okay, John's got that. Okay, so John Rothstein.
Yeah.
If
this is getting out.
That tells you that they're on the verge of releasing it.
Yeah.
I was told last weekend that in all likelihood, not assured, but the schedule would come out at some point this week. Well, it's Thursday now. So when you get a leak like that, it tells you they've got something that's close. Now, who knows where John got it from? Did he get it from the Indiana side? Did he quietly get it from the Penn State side? You don't know.
Yeah.
Or did he get it from somebody at Penn?
Yeah.
I mean, Penn could have told him. It's their arena. But that game it is the timing of it, the emotion of it. It gives Penn State a true home court advantage when the students aren't on campus. And Dick and I, look, Dick's, God knows how many games Dick's been there for, hundreds, right? And I have broadcast between 30 and 40 games in the Palestra in my career. I mean, between LaSalle, Drexel, Penn, right, the Atlantic 10 tournaments, Temple, St. Joe's. I've done. These games. I've done between 30 and 40 games in the Palestra in my career. It's just a magical place. But the key is when you go in there, in the corners, when you look up, and they're filled, the corners. That tells you it's going to be a loud crowd today. The corners.
That it is.
They're filled.
And in terms of the rest of the Penn State schedule that we know as of today, the season starts November 4th against Binghamton here in the BJC.
Yep.
I believe the Lady Lions also play that day in the BJC, so it's a double dip of a day.
Yes,
that'll be a fun one. You have UMBC coming here.
That's Jim Ferry, who was the head coach of Penn State in the COVID season.
So he'll be here November 8th. St. Francis comes to town November 12th.
That's Rob Krimmel.
Then head on the road to Virginia Tech to Baltimore for November 15th.
That game I can't do because of the Purdue football game the next day, but that's Ace Baldwin going back to Baltimore. Virginia Tech, personally like their coach. I had a great talk with him down in Orlando because we cross paths a lot,
see a lot of guys, see a lot of people,
and really like them a lot. Then they've got Purdue Fort Wayne. That's actually a part of the Daytona tournament.
I was going to say it's part of the Sunshine Slam, which is November 20th. That is going to happen here, and then they head down to sunny Daytona just before Thanksgiving on the 25th against Fordham. And the 26th,
that's Keith Ergo, by the way. All right.
And then Clemson or San Fran will be on the 26th, depending on wins and all that stuff.
And both those games, by the way, on the Monday, Tuesday, are afternoon games.
4 o'clock, and then either a 1:30 or 4 o'clock, depending on matchup.
Yeah, the 4 o'clock game is because of the second game that day. So the games there are all in the afternoon.
Yeah. And that'll be fun.
I already have my ticket to fly from Minneapolis down there, so I figured that.
Smart.
Well, I could have come back with the football team, but I know the basketball teams, they're not going to go down Sunday, especially because it's fall break. I mean, they can leave Friday night if they want, right, or Saturday. Either way, there's no way I can hook up with them to go down there.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, don't bother going back to State College because you then would have to take a flight to Newark and then Newark down and the whole thing. Why don't you stay overnight in Minneapolis? And Delta, Minneapolis, St. Paul is a Delta hub. I said, let's just do that. So I took the hub, thought, boom, fly to Atlanta, Daytona. I should get in early afternoon on Sunday, and then I'll fly back with the team after the game.
It's almost like you're smart. It's almost like it.
I probably just have some experience with it.
Yeah. Just a little bit. And the month of December, Buffalo is here in the BJC on December 1st.
They're not a bad team.
Not a bad team at all.
Right. Now, there's a hole. Now, you notice what the hole is. There's a hole.
2-week gap.
Right? That's because there'll be 2 Big Ten games there. Should be one here, one on the road.
So we'll find out what those are coming up hopefully soon.
I know who it's not.
Well, let's not discuss that yet. Right. I'm presuming it's not going to be Indiana if Indiana's playing on
No, that's not.
No, I know.
No. It's
just me saying that out loud. Then you have Coppin State on the 14th after that 2-week span.
Yeah.
Then
That's
Drexel.
That's a Saturday.
And then Drexel at the Wells Fargo Center.
Drexel's going to be at noon because the Flyers play that night. That's also opposite, potentially, a college football playoff appearance.
Yeah. So that is something to note.
We'll see.
And then on December 29th, when students are away, Penn State has Penn here at home at the BJC.
Fine.
That'll be a nice game before the new year, and possibly a day before or 2 days before some sort of second round game, if that is to exist for Penn State.
Well, it could be 3.
Could be 3.
Right. So, I mean, look, I'm playing all this stuff by ear, taking it a week at a time. I mean, I did make the plan ahead of time because I did have to, do something about the Daytona tournament on my own. I also got the flight for $200.
Ooh, not bad.
I know. But that's because I did it now. I mean, what do you want me to wait a month ahead of time? I mean, come on. Yeah. Also, at the U.S. Open Tennis Championship, the women's semifinals are tonight, this afternoon and tonight. Jessica Pegula.
It's an interesting last name.
That's Terry and Kim's daughter. I mean, Jess is now, she's 30 years old now. I mean, she's not a kid. But she knocked out the number 1 seed yesterday. And she gets to play tonight for her first ever U.S. Open final. This is, it's a fun story. It's a great story. And, she's a number 6 seed, by the way.
Yeah, she's number 6. She's got Mukova, 8:30 p.m. tonight, from the Czech Republic. And there's a chance. I mean,
will I be tuning in at times from the football game to watch some of it? Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I don't, it's not like I've never met the Pegulas.
Yeah. And by the way, there is a chance it is an all U.S. final because you have Navarro against Sabalenka in the other matchup at 7 p.m. tonight.
Very quick note about the Americans. First of all, on the women's side, in recent years, there's only been 2 Americans that have won, Sloane Stephens and Coco Gauff. That's been it. Stephens won in 2017, I think. Yeah. That's been it. I mean, everybody know, they've seen Serena and everything she did over the years, but it's been a while since she won it. Right? Sloane Stephens and Coco Gauff have won. On the men's side, you're guaranteed of an American in the final.
It's Fritz
because
Tiafoe.
Fritz and Francis Tiafoe.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
Okay, but you're guaranteed an American in the final because this is the first All-American semifinal since 2005 when Andre Agassi won. And Agassi didn't win the tournament, by the way.
And
he lost to Federer, I think, in the final.
And the winner of Fritz Tiafoe will play Sinner or Draper in the final, presumably Sinner, the number 1 player in the world, the man who we've discussed already on this show.
Sinner, I watched, when I got home from Williamsport last night, I watched a lot of late-night tennis because of baseball. I'll come home and go, okay, I'll watch some of that. Because the one thing about the U.S. Open that's completely different than Australia, the French, or Wimbledon is those night matches and the crowds at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
It gets loud.
But it's fun. It's rowdy. It's like, quiet, please. Just settle down. Let them serve. All right. Okay. All right. But there's a different atmosphere and feel to the place than any other tennis tournament. Right? Hey, lovely. Outstanding drop shot. Loved it. As opposed to, way to go. Kick his backside. Okay, great. New York.
It's a New York crowd. That's what it is.
I love it.
I've had a lot of friends that have been going to the matches. They've been enjoying it. I had some friends over the last few days that have been there having a fun time. So it is always fun to see. I always love seeing the U.S. Open. Of course, the fact that it is here on the East Coast is fun. And the fact that, as you said, these matchups are at Fritz and Tiafoe is 7 p.m. tomorrow night. That is prime time viewing if you want to watch it. And that is going to go on just before the Brazil game happens. So that is, you can watch that game tomorrow night.
I mean, will I end up watching the Brazil game? Yes. Okay, when players have to be given a list of don't do,
don't wear, don't do, it is
right? Okay,
crazy.
You have a mess. Mm-hmm. When the players have to have a list of don't do, like, what? Mm-hmm. Again, as you know, I am so against this. In the preseason, I'm completely for it.
Bring games to Germany.
I am completely for any preseason game being played overseas to showcase football. Mm-hmm. I'm not for regular season games.
Yeah.
Okay? All of you out there, you're the reason the NFL is what it is. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can go, the management, the players, whole thing. Guess what? You have to have people sit there and go, I think I want to watch. I want to go.
You know what's funny to me is, as we wrap up here, looking at what the discussions abroad have been for other sports. And the Premier League is, of course, the one my brain goes to first. You know that already here on the show. The Premier League has discussed playing games abroad for league matches. And every fan has said no. And clubs have also started saying no. Because there is something to be said about having your home crowd actually be there. If you want to play the finals or whatever, if it's like instead of the Super Bowl, if you want to play that game somewhere else or
but they don't do that. Okay, the Premier League just plays and there is no playoff.
And we know what they do? They do preseason games in America. They go to Australia, to China, to everywhere.
And people are intrigued. They don't care if it's a okay, it's Liverpool against, let's just pick somebody, okay?
Yeah.
And they're playing at Washington, for example. Well, people love it. They come over. They don't care if it's a regular season thing. And I'm telling you, the people overseas don't care it's a regular season game. They don't care. Okay?
You're getting the issue a lot of people have is you are getting the casual fan. You're not getting the fan who is the diehard who wants to go to those games. Because that is the fans that are like, you know what? They're going to be here. I'm going to go watch them for fun. That's fun for preseason. Yeah. I got to go watch Brighton and Chelsea play at the Lincoln Financial Field last season. That was fun for me. I got to go watch two teams play that I can't see ever because Brighton is over in England, and same with Chelsea. That's cool. Do that. Or the Club World Cup is going to be here in 2025. Cool. Great. Awesome. Do that stuff there. Don't do a regular season game in Brazil, in Mexico, in London, in Germany. Do preseason games there. Have a team do a preseason tour. Say, you know what? We're going to go abroad. We're going to spend 1 week in Germany, 1 week in London. That would be fun.
I have no problem spring training baseball goes someplace.
London. Or if they go to Japan,
Australia,
South Korea.
South Korea, London, wherever. I don't mind if you take an entire week of spring training and have everybody travel and play games. But when it comes to the regular season, my goodness, I mean, this year what the Phillies played the Mets, each gave up a home game. The Phillies fans deserve to see their team play at home, and the Mets fans, well, deserve to see their team play at home. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry. That's, okay, that's not right. That's not right, okay? The fans of this country made you who you are. Stop backhanding them and acting like they're an afterthought. When you start treating people like a means to an end, I don't care if you're a business or a government, you start treating them like a means to an end, you lose them.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.